we will just get rolling. So like I said, Terry is not here, but we have some great panelists joining us. They're going to be speaking a little bit about the tribal services in and around Whatcom County, which I am very grateful to learn more about. One of our speakers let us know that they will not be available most likely, although there's a chance they're going to surprise us. But that's Diana Fair with the Lummi Housing Authority. She had some other business come up that pulled her away today, unfortunately. However, we do have a few others. So without further ado, I think we'll go, I'm just going to go in the order of the agenda here. Department of Commerce, I think that's you, Michelle, who I had the pleasure of hearing from at a conference over the summer in Leavenworth. Others didn't get that opportunity, and you're probably wondering who she is and what she does, and what she can tell us about her work there at Commerce. So Michelle, if you don't mind, we would appreciate if you would share with us.
Absolutely. First of all, thank you for inviting me today. I am Michelle Gladstone Wade, and I serve as the tribal liaison for the Department of Commerce. So anything and all things tribal that falls within our very broad book of business becomes something that's on my list of things to do. So housing and homelessness reduction and capital dollars, all of it, as if it's in partnership with a tribe or the tribe is the entity that is applying, in some way, shape, or form, I typically have eyes on the project. How I see myself at Commerce is an entity, if you will, to help raise the voice of tribal communities within our internal structures, our program design, and how we do our work, which, according to my banner here, is strengthening communities. So in a nutshell, that is what I do. And I believe Tiffany's out there in the world. She's the one who I connected with that brought me into the circle. So again, thank you for inviting me today.
Thank you. Then Tiffany, if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself.
Yes, hello, I'm Louise Trapp. I'm the new assistant manager here at Health and Community Services.
Thank you. And let's go on to the next agency, the Nooksack Tribe. I believe Tiffany's the homeless program manager. Apologies if I didn't say your position correctly. Could you maybe verify that? Not that titles are all that important when you get down to it. But if you'd let us know a little bit about your work, we'd appreciate that too.
Sure. So you are correct. My name is Tiffany Samudio. I am the homelessness programs manager for the Nooksack Indian Tribe. Currently, I'm juggling a bunch of different programs out this way, but all of it kind of encompasses housing and homelessness. I've kind of been a part of these meetings for a while, trying to get some more time for myself to kind of participate as much as I can, and then bringing other people in as well so we can get the perspective from the tribes in the Pacific Northwest, Washington State.
Thank you, Tiffany. And then Leon John, I don't believe we've met, but I believe you're here representing, is it the Didgwalic Wellness Center? Maybe you could help me understand that a little better and maybe correct my pronunciation there if I've not done that one very well. That looks like a no. Maybe I said it really wrong. Sorry, I saw a Leon hop in the participant list and I saw the name there and I crossed my wires on that. So it looks like they are unfortunately not able to join us. All right, well, what was once 4 is now 2. I don't want to put any extra pressure on Michelle or Tiffany, but if there are things that you could maybe communicate to this group, I guess just a little background. This is service providers. We occasionally have some elected officials that join us, interested community members that are kind of drawn to the idea of being able to work collaboratively towards increasing housing stability, reducing homelessness. Obviously, we want to work with a wide array of populations, and I think we all recognize the strength of diversity and how we do that. So if there's anything you could talk to us about the work that you're doing and maybe how you see it fitting in with the work of your colleagues, maybe in the non-tribal community, I think that would probably be helpful. I don't know if you're game for questions. There might be some questions that get inspired from the group here. So if that's all right, I think I'd like to invite folks to ask questions if those come up too.
I love questions.
Great.
Throw that out there. Tiffany, do you want to start first? Or do you want me to jump in and blabber on for a bit?
So I just as an update of kind of things that are going on first, Michelle, I can go ahead and run down kind of what we're doing out here, and then you can jump in afterwards if you want, or as you feel the need to, and then yeah, and then I think we can go from there, if that works for you.
Yep, there we go. Found it. Works for me.
Okay. So Chris, I don't know if I can share my screen.
I hope so. I don't actually have the controls for the room.
Oh, okay.
I bet someone does, and I'll bet they're listening.
I do have the screen share on for folks, so you should be able to. You want to give it a quick try and see if it works?
Yeah, let me. Okay. You guys got that? So just a quick update of things that are going on out here in Nooksack. So our Nooksack Tiny Home Project is kind of off and running. Our housing department is currently screening for these homes. They are basically set up like little homes. I've walked through them. They're gonna have a bedroom, a loft up top for storage, bathroom, separate living room area. All the appliances are gonna be included. So this will get up to 3 either individuals or households off the waiting list, because they are willing to move couples into these. I did talk to one of our case managers today, and she said also if it were a situation where it was like a mother and a child, they would be willing to do something like that too. They just don't want to put anybody in a situation where they're going to immediately be overcrowded in the tiny home. So they have, like I said, all the appliances are going to be included: stackable washer and dryer, refrigerator, central AC, dishwasher. With the screening that's taking place, they should be doing move-ins hopefully right at the beginning of 2024. These are all low rent units, as opposed to a lot of our tax credit houses that we have out here, where the max rent for these is going to be set at $150. And then here's just a little, so that was kind of when it started. This is where we're at today with the 3 that are going up. Again, like I said, new tenants as of January 2024, and this project is located in our Retsats housing project in the Deming area. Also in Deming, we have some new construction that's coming up. To the lead case manager and director over at housing. They're looking at a maximum cap of $450 for those low rent units. We are currently in phase 1, which is the ground has been broken for the 4-bedroom, and then they have some foundation that's laid already for the 3 2-bedroom units that are going to be opening up, are going to be going up, I'm sorry. And just so you guys know kind of whereabouts these are going to be located, This is the first picture is First and Sherman. First Street actually comes off of Mount Baker Highway, kind of as soon as you pass the Mount Baker High School. On the right-hand side there, it turns into First Street. So we'll have the set of the three 2-bedrooms on one side of First Street, and on the other side is we have a lot where the 4-bedroom is gonna go up there. And the good thing about these, really good thing about these, is that this is, again, just for visibility, this is Deming Road. So this is the other side of First Street, coming off of Mount Baker Highway. And Deming Road is actually where the admin building, our social services offices, youth and family services, child support, enrollment, all of the only thing that's not up this way is our clinic. But we are on the bus route up this way. And this will be the first time that we actually have any housing going up around our tribal services area. So, which is super exciting for us. This is something we've been talking about for a long time because it's up here in Deming. It's kind of out of the way from Bellingham. People have a hard time accessing, and getting out here for services. So we're really excited about these homes that are going up. And again, we'll be able to pull off of our waiting list, which has our homeless population prioritized, like our number one priority. So I have a lot of people who are patiently waiting for these homes to go up. And then our specifically for the homelessness program, I think I've kind of talked to a few of you about the homeless shelter that we had, again, up here in Deming. It is a little further past this area, where like our offices are. And because it's all the way up there, we had been using it as kind of a drop-in short-term shelter. We're moving to use that as more of a transitional home, because we've just found that is something that seems to work better for our clients in our community out this way. So it's going to be housing individuals and families through that transitional program for up to a year while we are engaging them in wraparound services, supportive services, and intense case management to try and help them secure permanent housing. Right now, the housing project will have 3 rooms available. Each room can house up to 3 people, of course, depending on family composition. We also have our homelessness basic needs distribution program, which right now has been keeping us extremely busy, going out and meeting clients out at the encampments. Another one of the things that we have been trying to do with to address issues with our homeless population is as soon as they have that food voucher in hand, taking them to the grocery store so that way it's not getting lost or misplaced, or and getting them getting them right to the grocery store so they can pick up what they need, and then giving them a ride to wherever it is that they're going. We also have our propane distribution program, which I kind of touched on a little bit, where we're just able to put funding on an account through CHS, and then as they need to, they're able to go in and fill up their propane tanks. So there again, we're getting calls where it's like, hey, I've got 5 or 6 propane tanks. Can somebody come give me a ride so I can do it all at once? So it's been keeping us busy because, of course, so we're getting into the colder months, and as we're going out there, just engaging people and trying to see what kind of other services we can get them hooked up with. A few new items that are that are already, on the agenda is a grant that we're working on with Commerce to address homelessness with youth, specifically with youth and young adults. And this is going to be something that allows us to do a little more, maybe emergency rental assistance, deposits for youth who are getting into a new place, some diversion, and just some things to try and help the youth and young adults of our community who are struggling to get into their own place. I have a meeting with our council team, our council as well, our tribal council, to go over what it's going to look like to put up pallet housing. We went and had a chance to visit Tulalip's, several of Tulalip's locations where they address homelessness. Tulalip has so many beautiful buildings that they utilize. And one of their programs that, once it was explained to us, came up, they said they had the idea within a month. They had, I believe it's 16 pallet homes that went up. And then they have one centralized home where staff works out of. And the program's very, very low barrier. And it was a great way for them to provide shelter for 16 individuals right away. Like I said, from start to finish, they sent everything to me as to, how long it took, what they had to do, where they bought everything, how long construction was, and it really was about 30 days from start to finish. So we have, like I said, I'm on the agenda to meet with council because we're hoping to at least get 10 of those up within the next 30 days. So there's a few exciting things that are happening, and we're hoping that we're able to at least, assist where we can, as we're all in this line of work. So we know we always want to help as many as we can help, and there's never enough to go around. But that's just some of the stuff that we're doing as of right now. So, and I will pass it over to Michelle.
Thank you.
Unless anybody has any questions. Sorry, Michelle.
Oh, I'm not offended, I promise.
I do see a hand up here, probably a question from Vaughn.
Hi, and I was a little bit late, so I'm not sure if Michelle is going to be addressing these questions already. But so for a couple questions, the 3 tiny homes that you showed us at the very beginning, are they? Do you know the square footage of each of those, and how much the cost per unit or for each one of those? And then with the pallet homes, are you talking about the pallet homes that's like the company in Everett that does like the emergency shelter? And are those pallet homes like the tiny homes that you showed in the beginning, where they have full laundry, dishwasher, I'm sorry, I'm like blanking, shower and all that? Or are they like the pallet homes that are emergency shelter where they don't have like those utilities attached? And how much for those units comparatively?
So the tiny homes that are going up are definitely more, I don't want to say elaborate because they're not. I mean, like they're not like.
Tiffany, I don't know if you can hear. You're frozen, I believe, on the rest of our ends right now. It might be, I hate to make the suggestion, but like maybe to turn your video off for a moment. I'm gonna change that kind of to free up some bandwidth. Did you catch that? I don't know if you could even hear me.
So I didn't get to hear any of the cool details that she expressed. Did anybody catch them?
Yeah, Tiffany, I don't know if you're able to repeat what you said. You were frozen for some of that. Maybe trying again with your video off would be helpful. She is still muted. Okay.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Okay. I thought I was gonna have to type everything out in the chat, so I'm glad you guys can hear me. So the tiny homes are definitely on a different scale than the pallet homes. The pallet homes are very like emergency shelter, very basic. There's not a bathroom, bedroom, really any utilities except for heat and air conditioning that's in the pallet homes. There's like I said, with the ones in Tulalip and what we're hoping to do with the ones out here in Nooksack as well, is have a centralized home where people are able to come in, use the shower, like scheduled shower times, that kind of stuff. And then there are porta potties that are outside for them to use the restroom within the vicinity of the pallet homes. The square footage of the pallet homes, I believe that they said, and it is the company in Everett. So I want to say that they told me they were, actually, I'm not going to answer because I can't remember 100%. I will look it up though, because it's in an email. I know that the square footage for the tiny homes is, oh shoot, I want to say she told me it was 800. I want to say she told me it was 800, but then I'm thinking also along the lines of 650. So I will double check on that. But again, they are very different. So the pallet homes, we're looking at making it more of just strictly to have people come in an emergency situation to utilize the shelter and stay warm. And like I said, it's very low barrier. With the tiny homes, it's actually, they go through, the screening process, background check, UA, that kind of stuff, where the pallet home program would not do anything like that. Hopefully I caught all your questions, Juan. I'm sorry.
And I got I'm sorry if I missed it too, the funding for building these things. Who are your main sources of funding? How difficult was it?
So the funding for the tiny homes, we were actually able to utilize some of the last of the ARPA funding that the tribe received. And then the tribe matched some hard dollars. For the pallet homes, our council has looked into a couple different funding sources, where they're hoping that there's going to be a couple different grants that come in, which is part of what we're going to discuss at our meeting coming up, and see if we've kind of got everything covered between those grants. But once I have that meeting, if that's something you're interested in, Vaughn, I can definitely shoot that over to you and let you know what it is.
Yeah, thank you. I have a question too, if I may. I'm thinking about the wraparound services, Tiffany, that you mentioned to go with the transitional housing for that up to 1 year period. I'm wondering if you could say a little bit more about that. If you have, on-site in-house service providers, or if you're working with other providers out in the community, and if that service would be a requirement of a stay there or something that was kind of at the selection of the tenant or guest,
So for specifically for the transitional housing, we have quite a few services that are in-house, provided here through social services at Nooksack. Some of those, and then also through Nooksack Housing. And in order for the transitional housing clients to remain and kind of utilize that duration of the year, part of them staying would be them agreeing to participate in the wraparound services in order to get them into permanent housing.
Tiffany, this is Barbara from Whatcom County, and I have a question. I'm hoping to hear a little bit more about how you get referrals for the program. I think you said that it would be for people who were connected with housing providers, or perhaps it was behavioral health providers. I'm not real sure if I heard that right.
So we have, me personally, I have referrals that kind of come in from all over. So because our departments are so interconnected and we work so closely together, especially up here at the tribe, if somebody comes in and has, a question about housing, they immediately come and grab me, and we've got, a couple of us that are willing to go over all of their options. And then if somebody's meeting with a client and realizes, oh, hey, this is a homeowner who's struggling with, making their mortgage or taking care of utilities, they know everybody's kind of familiar with all the different programs. So they know, well, Tiffany's manages the homeowners assistance program, so we can direct this client over there. But we also I do work really closely with Welcome Opportunity Council. And so I have a couple gals there that are really good about when people come in for services at Welcome Opportunity Council. They'll ask, or it'll be written like Nooksack Tribal member, and they'll make sure it's okay and make contact with me to make sure we're providing as many services as possible out here in Nooksack and through Welcome Opportunity Council, if that's the case. And then with a lot of the other tribes, again, that's if they come in and they let them know, hey, I'm an Nooksack Tribal member. I get calls and emails from different tribes with referrals for services, or on the other side of that, if there is one of their tribal members who lives in the area, our service area is Whatcom in Skagit County. So if they have a tribal member who's living within our service area, they'll contact me and say, hey, we have this tribal member out there. They're reaching out for services, and we'd like to refer them over to you. So, so there's a lot of different ways that referrals come in. And I kind of welcome all of them, right? So we can try and get as many served as we possibly can. And I don't think I've had any other than Welcome Opportunity Council, because I know that's kind of the hub for homelessness, right? Like they have their it's not a housing pool. My goodness, my brain just went out the window. But their homelessness resource center is kind of the point or point of contact for everybody to kind of funnel through and see what programs they qualify for and that kind of stuff. So they're a really good resource, and also contact, right, for them to contact me and for me to contact them. So it's just, it really is just a web of how referrals come in. Sorry, Barbara, I hope that answers your question.
That was more than what I hoped for, even. It was great. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, thanks, Stephanie. That was really helpful. Good to hear how the systems are similar and different, and opportunities for collaboration there. Yeah, and Opportunity Council does have what they call the housing pool through the Homeless Service Center there and the Community Resource Center, which is where we try to funnel the incoming needs for housing services in Bellingham. Are there other questions for Tiffany? Okay. Michelle, are you still with us?
Absolutely.
Great.
Well, my information sharing is not as exciting as Tiffany's, because I am the state and we're not exciting. I'm just going to be honest with you guys. But fun fact, I grew up in Whatcom County, graduated from Nooksack Valley High School, part of the Nooksack Tribe. My son's enrolled Lummi, so this is technically my job, yes, but very personal to me, having grown up in Bellingham. And let me tell you, the food in Olympia does not compare. I actually dream about pure bliss and cafe acrotary. But that aside, what I am here to share with you all today is a little bit about what Commerce has going on in terms of funding for homelessness prevention work as well as housing. So what I threw in the chat there is a link to our landing page for the homelessness and housing offices and programs. One of which is the Office of Family and Adult Homelessness. And then the program that Tiffany referenced, the Office of Homeless, the brain and mouth are not connecting, Office of Homeless Youth, which is running that current grant grant request for applications. I'm trying not to use our acronyms because normal people don't speak in acronyms. That Tiffany had shared about. And if in case you're interested in learning about it, there's a link to the grant there. So one thing about Commerce, and I find this personally, not as a bureaucrat and a Commerce employee, but personally kind of frustrating, is Commerce as a agency doesn't actually do the help to help someone who may be at risk for becoming homeless. We essentially are a pass-through bank, and we will fund the local jurisdictions, the city of Bellingham, Whatcom County, or any of the nonprofits that are engaged in this work. That's what we do. We are essentially a bank. We actually have a budget this year of $7 billion, that's billion dollars, to pass through to communities in Washington. One critique that we have heard in terms of our tribal outreach and support is that our housing folks are not at the table. And specifically in Whatcom County, I've paid rent in Whatcom County. I know that housing is such a huge issue at the moment. So to only compound that, Commerce is involved in an opioid response task force at the state level that is partnering with tribal governments in the opioid response, which has a huge impact on housing available for folks, including the wraparound services and the supportive housing, all the way from the behavioral health facilities to independently integrating back into your community. So what I've been working on with the support of my director is creating almost, I can't think of a better term for it, but like a phased outline of folks who are coming into behavioral health facilities, or even reentry folks who have been in the prison systems here in Washington, and having the group living with full wraparound services, and then perhaps apartment style living with wraparound services, and increasing the what's the word I'm looking for? Reducing the intensity of those services provided so folks can re-enter back into their communities. And what we're looking to do is kind of plug in the Commerce programs that fit into each phase and style of housing that is in that progression. There we go. Progression is the word I'm looking for. But what we have found is they don't always fit tribal communities, Commerce programs. We've gotten some feedback that, yes, your programs are wonderful, but you're not paying for the types of support that tribal folks actually need. The example that was given to me was, I believe, a wraparound service to support youth who were in recovery for one reason or another, and being able to send them on the tribal canoe journeys. And that expense was actually denied through their grant that they had. And I find that to be appalling, but I am very biased. I'm going to own that up front. So that's where my office, Office of Tribal Relations here at Commerce, is starting to partner with our Community Services Division and our housing folks to try and get our capital dollars to build the roofs, right? And community service operational dollars into tribal communities to provide the supports that actually work based on what tribal communities are telling us, not what the royal we of the state thinks will work best. I know I'm going to be preaching to the choir here that we don't live in the communities we serve. I mean, I grew up in Whatcom County, but I live in Olympia now. And so I have no right to speak on behalf of any community in Whatcom County. It is simply my job to elevate what I hear to our program designs, our program leads, and remind the rest of the bureaucracy here that we don't know best for every community in Washington, and that we really need to walk our talk when it comes to co-designing our programs, so that when our dollars do flow into these communities, they're actually having the impact that they are intended to have. And that comes in a few forms, actually. We do have the Housing Trust Fund, which is our super large capital pot of money for building homes, acquiring buildings to turn into housing. And that's where most, actually, I'm going to back up there. I am about 99% sure that is the only big pot of housing dollars that tribal entities are eligible for. Which, when we have a $7 billion budget, that seems kind of restrictive. So that is a program that we are looking at with the question of how do we make these dollars more easily, it's 4 o'clock, I've lost my eloquence, gettable by tribal folks who need to build those houses in order to keep their communities safe and housed and being able to access the services that they need. So that's something that we are working on. But for the non-tribal side of that coin, Housing Trust Fund is very easily accessible. There we go. My brain is starting to kick in a bit. I don't think I dropped the link, but if you guys are interested in it, I absolutely can drop that there. There it is. So in the Housing Trust Fund, we have quite a few different programs. One of them is actually a maintenance program that if you have previously won a Housing Trust Fund award and have some sort of housing, it's a maintenance award, which I think is rather thoughtful of the state. That's not something I accuse us of very often. Additionally, we do have tiny homes and cottage styles housing capital dollars to build those tiny home communities. Multifamily rental, either building or acquiring either townhome or apartment style housing to increase the number of units more quickly than building the single family homes. And I believe there is one more, the home ownership applications, which actually helps offset the price of buying a home in terms of, I believe it can help for down payments. It can also help with closing costs, which I just learned recently can be absorbent when buying a home. And so those are some of the big hard capital dollars that Commerce is running. And if anyone from any cross-section here is interested, I am happy to connect you with our program folk who will be able to answer all the detailed questions that I will not be able to. So before I'm done blabbering on here, I'll be sure to drop my contact information in the chat. And one last little tidbit is, in the past, had to be in the past 2 years, we received a big influx of money from Apple Health and Homes. And what I love about this is it just kind of pluses up some of our existing programs that are focused on wraparound services. So for example, one of them is a permanent supportive housing program, which is meant to fund interventions for people who need housing assistance or supportive housing services to be able to live independently within their communities. I'm learning a lot about this program right now. It's a real great one. And they have both capital dollars to build, acquire, what have you, and operating a maintenance fund for those wraparound services. Then it gets into like HUD, where we play with HUD. That is way beyond my pay grade. I'm not even going to pretend to understand how to discuss HUD here with you all. But those are the big pots of money that we have going on here at Commerce. And like I said, I'll drop my information and we can totally have deep dive conversations with our housing staff. I'm happy to arrange that with everyone. I can try to answer questions, but I'm not sure how knowledgeable I'd be if they're very specific in these programs.
Thank you, Michelle. Looks like Ron's got a question. Let's start with him.
Okay, my brain, I'm a little bit like too, so I'm gonna do my best. With the seven billion, yes, you said 7 billion, and how many years to distribute that?
So the $7 billion budget is across our 4 or 5 operating divisions. So that includes housing, energy, local government, which is our capital, community services division. Who am I? Oh, and economic development and competitiveness. So the $7 billion just kind of smooshes between all of those divisions. And that is for this fiscal year. Some may roll over to the next because we do operate on a biennium. And the supplemental budget will be coming out of this next short session that may be refilling some of those particular coffers depending on how they've been spent down during this fiscal year.
Is there any talk about like 0% interest loans in addition to grants and super low interest loans?
Oh yes, we got plenty of those. I work tribal, obviously. I don't go into the other areas. I'm not going to pretend to understand most of what's going on. But in economic development and competitiveness, and in our housing department, there are low interest loans. I can try and hunt some of them down for you if you're interested, and I can share those with you.
I would love that. What's cooking in my head right now is that even in one of our last county housing advisory committee meetings, we talked about the county rural sales tax credit called, this is a draft of the minutes, so bear that in mind, the Economic Development Investment Fund, and we have a current fund balance of approximately $20 million. But I guess right now they prefer to offer loans instead of grants, and it says here that we're trying over the next 16 to 18 months to reworking the policy standpoint so that affordable housing projects can have, again, more gettable, more obtainable, more accessible access to this money that's just sitting pretty. And okay, a lot of us are not sitting pretty, so release the valve, whatever it might be. And so I'm trying to figure out how to push it along so that we have more blood flow.
I call it the fire hose of funding. We just have a ridiculous budget. I mean, no normal person's like, oh, that's only 3 million, but we have those conversations normally internally. So I will look into, full disclosure, everyone, our website is very difficult to navigate. So if you have questions, I am fully on deck to help do the deep dive into our website and find what you need and share it with you. And that's not technically in my job description, but I'm happy to do that because it actually helps get the information where it needs to go. So I will find those for you, Vaughn, and I will share them.
Thank you. And one more thing is, what are your thoughts on, so one thing that I think is chronically happens in Whatcom County and the city of Bellingham is that, okay, we get a push forward, people agree, we have these needs, let's put out a request for proposals and qualifications. And then it's like crickets. We don't have very many people stepping up for a bid because there's not enough agencies who are incorporated, or people don't have the insurance, or they haven't been established for more than 3 years, or whatever all of the standards. What are your thoughts on having more tutorial services, workshops that are pre-recorded, that are very accessible for folks who have an 8th grade to 5th grade reading level, literacy level? We have, I've been learning more about literacy across the nation, where 1 in 4 adults in the United States is functionally illiterate. So how do we bridge these gaps and make it so that we have more players who can come to the table and are empowered with education? And is Washington State Department of Commerce working on bridging those educational gaps? And would some of that funding for housing, could it possibly be used toward educating people to figure out how to do housing development?
Well, funny you should ask, actually. Part of my role has a very wide implications across the agency. And one of the things that I have been spending most of my time on for about the past 2 years is how do we make commerce less difficult to work with, just to say it bluntly. Our applications are ridiculous. Our data reporting can just be mind-numbing. And luckily, when I'm out visiting with tribal communities and whatnot, they tell me all of this point blank to my face. I've had a tribe say, you know what, we actually got a grant from you, but we turned it down because it was too much administrative work. So at every point in the grant cycle, commerce has become a burden, which, and you guys have probably figured out I'm a terrible bureaucrat. I think our rules are awful. So I'm just going to roll with that being my lens here. If we want to strengthen, I'm assuming all communities in Washington, then that means we need to stop pandering to those who have the ability to hire technical grant writers. We need to stop awarding company or applicants who have access to capital. Match dollars, I think, are wildly inequitable. We are giving more points to people who know rich people. Like, that's not how you actually strengthen the communities that need our support. So I've been on a very tall soapbox within commerce of we need to make commerce dollars easier to access. So that means for tribal anyway, and I hope will spread through the agencies, I'm putting a lot of trainings out on our external websites. In terms of tribal work, tribal consultation, a lot of people freak out and they're like, nope, not doing it, which actually causes more tension between the state and our tribal partners. So we are trying to provide training to our staff as well, who work with tribal partners, as well as anyone who is external to commerce who may have to do a tribal consultation for whatever reason. It is a heavy lift, but I used to work in higher ed, so I am very biased in that education should be free and accessible to everyone, regardless of what it is. So that is something that I have been pushing very hard in commerce. I have a few, I call my co-conspirators, who have been working on accessibility in our documents, in our requests for proposals and applications. We have a full equity office, and they are definitely co-conspirators of mine. We do almost everything in lockstep to ensure that we aren't just funding the same 6 large counties, governments, and companies that come to asking for commerce dollars, that we are actually equitably spreading those dollars across the state from top to bottom, left to right. Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you, Vaughn, for that question, and thank you, Michelle, for that great answer. That was really informative, insightful. I do see that Leon John has joined us. Leon, I don't want to put you on the spot, but I got your name on a piece of paper that listed you as one of our presenters today. So I'm hoping that you're game to give us a little overview of who you are and the work that you do. I believe you're working with the Nooksack Tribe, but I'm not positive about that. If you're able to jump in and tell us a little, I would appreciate that.
Yeah, I apologize. I'm not prepared to present. I was asked to stand in for Karen Gott today, and unfortunately, I'm not prepared. Thank you, though.
Yeah, sure. Well, feel free to jump into the conversation as you see fit. I think that goes for everyone else. Are there any other questions for our panelists today? I do believe Tiffany is still with us. She was having some connection problems, so maybe just has her camera off. But yeah, if you've got questions, this is a good place to ask them.
Well, I was waiting for others, but I'll jump in. I do have a question, and this is for you, Michelle. I'm wondering if you ever work with the Housing Assistance Unit at the Department of Commerce. which is the unit that we typically work with with our housing program, we get one of the grants that you mentioned through Commerce, the Consolidated Homeless Grant. And I'd just be curious if your work overlaps with theirs in any way, shape, or form.
I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not great at sugarcoating things, but I have been in this position for about a year and a half. I have one deputy, so it's an office of two for our entire agency of over 120 programs. And unfortunately, housing is a division that we are still getting to know. We've had a few great initial conversations, and I don't think I have worked closely with them yet. But rest assured, my friends, I have just passed a new internal tribal relations policy, and I will be in everybody's face agency-wide upon rollout. So I will be meeting them in the future.
That sounds great. And believe me, no judgment intended there.
May I ask a sensitive question about relations? I've been thinking a lot about this. We have just today in our library, we're preparing for Treaty Day, and fourth grade, seventh grade, and 11th grade is our focus in terms of like presentation materials, learning about the Treaty of Point Elliott, 1855, and how we're so close to 7 generations from when that treaty was signed. What are your thoughts on when I think about partnerships between non-tribal members and tribal members? I hear different things, and one of the things that I hear is that like tribes are not interested in working with non-tribes. Like the Lummi, Nooksack, they're not interested in working with anybody who's not part of their tribe. In general, or specifically, or I'm trying to. What should I believe? I guess where is there openness? Where is there potential for a partnership and collaboration, housing, mixed housing between, I think about this, like what if Ferndale and Bellingham, would it improve our relationships with each other, government-wise, leadership-wise, to work on housing development projects together? Is that possible? Is it probable? How much of a heartache would it be? I don't know if I'm making sense, but it's something that I'm a third culture kid. I'm a person that's in between worlds all the time. And I long for less fragmentation. I long for more cohesion. And I guess I'm not sure how to get there. And I would like to move in that direction, but I don't know if that's where a lot of people want to move, where to go. Am I making sense?
Oh, absolutely. I actually get this question a lot, and I would like to invite Tiffany and even Leon, if they have something to throw into the mix, to absolutely interrupt me. So when I started here at Commerce, we were not a friend to a lot of the tribal communities that were on my list to reach out to. And to be fair, a lot of awful stuff has happened, mostly to the tribal populations at the hands of said colonial governments, being the federal government, state government, the city government, and the county government. And in very general terms, what I see at the state level is the state works well with the tribes, well in air quotes, but there seems to be tension at the local government level with the tribes. I don't want to name names, but that's what I see from, Olympia. And What I tell folks internally is you have to just be a human, a regular old human, and treat tribal people like they're humans. It's how do you build the relationship? You're not going to just come in and say, hi, this is my title, let's work together. There's no humanity in that. There's no friendship, there's no connection. Like the first time I met Tiffany, we didn't actually work. We just gossiped for an hour. And it was wonderful, right? Some of my colleagues internally who are in tribal facing positions, we call it professional visiting. We will hop into our cute little state cars. They're all electric EVs, right? I'm like, me and my little toy cars. And we go and we have lunch with tribal staff with no agenda. We are not trying to pull wool over any eyes. We are just showing up as a human and saying, yes, we know we work for the tribe. There's a lot of people that see us as traitors. Oh, sorry, I don't work for the tribe. I work for the state. And that can put or reveal a chip on a lot of shoulders, not because me, the person, did anything wrong, but because I represent an oppressive government that may or may not be tied to significant land loss, disruption in cultural practices being like taught from generation to generation. And I'm just going to say it out loud, a lot of death at the hands of the colonial governments that literally run this entire country and the state and the city and the county. So there is the potential for bad blood, rightly so. And so when my staff ask me, what do I do? Just go visit them like a human. And that doesn't mean that your tribal counterparts can be like, hey, buddy, yes, let's do all these things together. That may not fix the relationship, but at least you were a normal human and tried. And maybe, a few years down the road, a few position changes, what have you, with a few more attempts at humanity and building a relationship, maybe that working relationship will follow. There's a perspective difference between the mainstream dominant culture and how you perceive things like time and how you rank importance of things that are very different in a tribal lens. And by forcing the mainstream dominant, I must have everything done now. We worship the written word. That doesn't always mesh with how tribal organizations and tribal people conduct business. So perhaps an openness to other ways of seeing and doing would be helpful. But that's just what we do inside of commerce. And I don't want to put Tiffany or Leon on the spot, but I would love to hear if I have it completely wrong and I should stop talking.
No, I think I would have to agree a lot with what Michelle just said. And also I've worked for Nooksack for the last, 12 years. Part of it was over in housing and now over in social services as the homelessness programs manager. In doing that, I've seen a lot of outside state agencies, county agencies, some nonprofits, things like that, reach out and say, hey, let's work on this project together. There's always that pause, like, is this something we really want to get into from the tribe's perspective as a whole, right? Like, do we want to jump into this? Is this something that's going to work out okay for everybody? Because there's always that power struggle, right? In working, you have one tribal government working with a county government or city government. And I've seen it time and time again. It's inevitable that you're going to come across some group of people somewhere that's going to say, well, we should be making this decision. And the tribe's going to say, no, we should be making this decision. So there's always some sort of power struggle there. The good news, though, that from what I've seen in the last few years is there's so much more talk and questions that we're getting, like what Vaughn just asked. We're being asked to come out and meet with people. We're being asked to come out and share some of our history. As I'm a Lummi tribal member. My daughter is a Nooksack tribal member. So we have family on both sides. And so we tend to, you know, when they ask like, okay, come out and talk to us, tell us a little bit about, you know, who you are, what you represent. And I think education is so important. And I don't necessarily mean people going to school, but I mean educating people on who we are as Indigenous people, right? Where we come from, what our history is. Because when people know that who we are, I think it starts to break down some of those barriers. So I love when people ask questions like, what can we do to, you know, to have everybody kind of get a better understanding of where you guys are coming from, or so that way everybody has a seat at the table. I told Michelle last time her and I talked, Lisa, who also works for Department of Commerce. That woman is persistent. Like she was on me for like months. Like, Tiffany, I need you in this meeting. Tiffany, I need you to be here. Like, can you make time to meet with me? Sending me emails if she didn't hear from me for a couple weeks. Hey, just checking on you, wanting to see how you were doing. Didn't see you at the last meeting. Like, I know you're busy. So just you know, trying to make those connections. And I know for Nooksack and for Lummi, there hasn't been a whole lot of really communication and working with commerce for a lot of things. But we are definitely, once that door has been opened and we see like, okay, this worked out really well, let's try this again, you know, or we worked really well on making this happen, so let's see if we can do something else. So I think that those doors are now being opened, and some of those walls are kind of coming down a little bit.
Yeah, there's when you're working in a county with more than one tribe, it's kind of all the tribes may not see things in the same light. But I just so everybody knows, I was formerly on the Swinomish Tribe Senate for 20 years. I retired in last March, or a year ago in March, and for the most part, with the other tribes, we agreed to disagree in various issues like hunting and fishing and gaming, but you know, and health. But we felt it important to work together on other issues that we had in common. And unfortunately, we always don't see eye to eye with decisions that counties make. For instance, for us, we are holding the Skagit County holding their feet to the fire on water rights. Our former chairman and our current chairman all the time talk about how much we take pride in one of the Skagit River being the only river in the lower 48 with all 5 species of salmon. And that's why the water rights are so near and dear to us. And when we made an agreement with Skagit County in '91, we expected them to follow that agreement that they put out in front of us, and we both signed. And for me, that's the only thing that is in contention for us and with our county government. we're slowly breaking down the barriers to in other areas. Like now I'm on the Population Health Trust board of directors here in Skagit County, and a few other spin-offs from that. And I'm finding that many groups are happy to have a tribe represented in these meetings, and because they want to know our perspective on, well, homelessness, on addiction, the food security, insecurities. I could go on, but it's I'm amazed at how much my counterparts in the county are wanting to learn from us and just find out what our thoughts are, and hopefully, break down barriers and start working together, because it's easier to work together than it is to work against each other. Thanks for that, and hopefully the us three have cleared up a little bit of it, but I know there's probably more to it than what we've said, but we can't speak for each other because of our sovereignty, and we take our sovereignty very seriously, and we don't always have I mean, the sovereignty is different to each tribe, and there are different areas of sovereignty that we hold more important than others. Thank you.
Thank you. It brought tears to my eyes when you said traitors, because being seen as traitors, because in a different way, in my way, like in my life, I have encountered that too, being seen as a traitor for wanting to practice diplomacy, and that to me, it's not dishonoring the pain, it's not dishonoring the injustices and the atrocities that have been done. It's trying to transmute them. It's trying to trans in like literally as a prefix means to go beyond, and to never forget, and to somehow also go beyond. And so when we talk about as a county, like we need 33,000 more housing units within such and such a time frame, and it's like I just don't see us doing that without everybody together. And together, unity does not mean homogenous. And so the art of that, how to create these solutions, and to have conflict that is constructive, to have renovation and innovation that is beneficial for all peoples. I'm just feel like I'm desperate for answers. And so I really appreciate sharing your wisdom, and thank you for hearing my question. It really means a lot to me.
Yes, thank you so much for that. I guess I wanted to pause a second longer, not because I don't know how to transition back to the rest of the agenda, but just because I think that was some really meaningful insights. And so yeah, I'd just sit with that for a minute.
There are some comments in the chat box I can read. Michelle indicated if anyone is interested in learning more, she's happy to coordinate a chat with their housing folks. Please reach out. And Michelle, thank you for that. And for she provided her email address as well. And Lorelei, will you be sharing your contact information? And thank you, she saw it. And then Ashley said that I really appreciate all of your responses to Vaughn's question about collaboration. Thank you for sharing your thoughts and experiences. And that's it for the chat.
Yeah, thank you, Barbara. Okay, I do think that we should try to at least touch on these other agenda items. I do want to say again, thank you to the panelists today. Your time is valuable, I know. And yeah, I think we'll all walk away knowing more than we did earlier. Well, maybe not you guys, but the rest of us will. So appreciate that. Yeah, Michelle did put her contact in there. I would suggest taking her up on that offer. I always love it when people make themselves available for further questions and comments. That said, let's shift gears a little. I don't know how to do this gradually, but we've got an update coming from the city of Bellingham. I'm going to kick it over to Katie. Katie.
Thanks, Chris. I also want to echo your thanks to the panel today. I think it's been such a good and healthy discussion, and I appreciate everyone's insights. I have kind of a lot of updates today. I'm hoping folks can bear with me. First off, I want to share a series of updates from our Bellingham Plan team, which is a branch of our planning department that's leading the update to the city's comprehensive plan, which is a document we're required to complete by state law. It essentially guides development goals and directs capital investments in the community from now until 2045. A huge kind of component of this plan update is public feedback and visioning. And there are 3 opportunities to engage here that I want to pass along to this group. The first is I want to invite this group to participate in a housing preference survey that's open now and closes on December 10th. The survey was created to gain feedback on housing preferences for a number of reasons, including recent legislation at the state level requiring cities to allow for additional housing units and housing types on residential lots. We also want to understand more for our own purposes as we work to update our city plans and municipal zoning rules. So I will share a link to that survey in the Zoom chat for both the English survey and the Spanish survey. I invite folks to share it and distribute it out to your networks. A little bit of fine print here. The survey is really intended for adults only, so 18 years and older. It takes about 15 minutes to complete. And after completing the survey, respondents can share their names and their email addresses for a chance to win one of 10 $100 gift cards. So I'll share those links in the chat. The second opportunity to plug in on Bellingham Plan is a community work group. So the planning team has applications that are now open for members of the public who are interested in participating in the Bellingham Plan Community Work Group, which is a group that meets once a month starting in 2024 to provide insights on a wide range of issues pertinent to the community. These insights will eventually be incorporated into the final plan update. I'll post a link to an application online in the Zoom chat. Stipends will be provided for folks who participate, about $600 to compensate members for their time. There's a real desire from our planning team for diverse representation on the group. So please spread the word, especially to those who may traditionally be underrepresented in city outreach efforts. The applications to join the group are open until December 11th. The last update I want to provide on the Bellingham plan side is just a general engagement update. The planning team is hard at work putting together a number of engagement activities in 2024 to support their engagement on the plan update. So I want to share with this group the Engage Bellingham webpage that was specifically created to relay information about events to the public. I'll put a link in the chat, and I want to encourage folks to bookmark that page and keep their antennas up for future opportunities to attend open houses or provide feedback that'll ultimately, cast a vision for a future city that reflects the priorities that are shared. The second update I have on the city side is I want to provide an update on the winter shelter program. I think I briefed this coalition at our last meeting during city updates about this program, but want to provide a quick update here. So the update is that the winter shelter program at Civic Field is open and operating. It opened last Friday on December 1st, and it will continue to run through the end of February on an ongoing nightly basis, so it's not weather dependent. The program is operated by Road to Home. They're a trusted community partner. They have experience running past shelter programs, including the severe weather shelter operated out of Civic Field last year. This year's winter shelter program is funded jointly by the city as well as Whatcom County. I'll provide a link in the chat to the Road to Home website that has an overview of the program and provides a little bit more program details. But basically the top line notes are the program will provide shelter for up to 45 guests a night. The program is first come, first served, and it'll run every night from 7 p.m. in the evening till 8 a.m. the next day. If folks have any questions about the program this year, I can put my email in the chat. Feel free to reach out. I also think Road to Home has contact information published on their program site, so feel free to reach out to them as well. So that's the update on the winter shelter program. The last update I have for folks is about the production and preservation facilities NOFA that the city plans to publish by the end of next week. This is a NOFA targeted to support the funding and production of new rental multifamily housing that serves primarily households making less than 60% of the area median income. It also can be used to fund the preservation of multifamily housing, so not necessarily building housing, but preserving existing housing stock. Included in that category is shelters and transitional housing. So yeah, this NOFA will be published on our city's partnerships and funding page. I'll put a link to that. If there's any interest or questions, please feel free to shoot me an email. I can pass it along to the city staff who will be managing that opportunity. And once the NOFA is published, a more refined timeline will be published, but in general, applications will be due at the end of January. So that's all I have for city updates. If there's any questions.
Thank you, Katie. Yeah, put questions in the chat or go ahead and interrupt me if you have them. Try to move along because we're getting kind of close to 5. I'll do a quick update for the county and then we'll pass it over to the Homeless Service Center. I do want to mention that there is also a funding opportunity out right now. There is a link in the chat. That'll be helpful. an RFP on the county finance purchasing page. Okay, you just put a bunch of links in there too, so you got a bunch of tabs you can open up. The opportunity I put out there is for a small capital program. We're looking at like renovations, remodels, smallish building purchases, maybe have some outside funds contributing. So take a look at that as well if you're looking at a capital project that's not like a big apartment building kind of project. The county's also been working to set up a severe weather shelter. That is ready to go when the opening conditions are met, which is a forecast temperature of 28 or below at any point during the evening. So we're just kind of waiting for it to get a little bit colder now to prioritize those coldest nights and use our resources that way. A quick staffing update. We have 3 people plus myself on the housing team at the county. Michaela is there in the bottom square on my screen. I don't know where you are, but she's joined the team here as a housing program specialist. So now we can do all of those things that we haven't been able to do in the past. We're happy to have her, and I'm looking forward to being able to get a little bit more responsive and proactive in our approach. Barbara, Michaela, Ashley, is there anything that you want to add to that?
I would just add that we will be working on an update to the local plan by the end of this year, and it will be, a summary basically of what has taken place over the past year in the housing and homelessness world of Whatcom County. And then an entirely new local plan will be due next year. I think by the end of the year. I think we have the full year to do that. So hopefully we will be getting out and generating some discussion among those of you who are interested in homelessness and housing, and get feedback for what our next strategies and plans should look like. And that's all I have. Thank you.
I'd say the only other thing I can think of is we've been doing some early local planning for the point in time count this year, which is going to be on January 25th of 2024. And so we've been working, or I've been working closely with the Opportunity Council to do some initial planning around that.
Thank you, Ashley, Barbara. Oh, Michaela?
Oh, I was just going to say, I don't have much else, but happy to be here and part of the county team, housing team. Yeah, and excited to see all the new things to come in the new year since we're almost there.
Thank you. Okay, let's pass the microphone over to Homeless Service Center. Melissa, I thought I saw you logged on, or you or someone else want to give some quick updates?
Hi, Marisa Sheffick, manager of the homeless outreach team with Opportunity Council. Terry sent me a few updates while she's out of town. First one, HOT has expanded to include the shower hygiene outreach team. Sorry, I'm trying to read notes and think at the same time. It's not working very well. Also known as SHOT. They are located at 210 City Hall, the back parking lot, and there's a nice new shower trailer there. It's got 3 bays. One of them is an ADA stall. The hours are Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, 7 a.m. to 5 p.m., including holidays that do fall on those days. And the team can give out hygiene kits and towels. So let people know, come and take a hot shower. The second update is our homeless memorial that we do every year. That'll be happening on December 21st, front steps of City Hall from 5:30 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. Our third update is that we are currently planning for the point in time count, also known as PIT. The official PIT day is Friday, January 26th. So as soon as we have more on that, we'll let everyone know. And the last update is that way station construction is progressing. I don't have a ton of details on it, but the last meeting we were in, it sounds like things are really moving forward. So fingers crossed, we'll stay on track.
All right, thank you. Any questions for that? And then if not, we do always reserve some time at the end for other items, agency announcements, general off the wall questions, anything else that might be happening that people are interested in sharing. This is a receptive audience. So go ahead and share your thoughts, your updates, things you wish were different. Let us know. Nobody has any fun holiday plans? All right, well, thank you all for being here. Do put your name in the chat and your email address if you want to get added to that mailing list if you're not on it already. Yeah, special shout out to the panelists. Thank you so much for joining us today, for sharing with us. That is very much appreciated. So yes, thank you for joining us. All right, keep up the good work. I know it's not easy out there, but the work that you all do makes a difference. So we very much appreciate what you're doing out there in the community. With that, have a good night.